Hey there, Earthlets. On November the 8th, the nation of Earth, called the United States of America, is having a competition to see who the country gets to blame for all of its issues over the next 4 years. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for, but I'd like to influence what you're voting for and why. The race is essentially, but not exactly, between two people. The race, which is somewhat of a sprint now, really started in January 2015, which I guess makes it more of an endurance challenge. Allow me to explain. At the end of 2014, some people had decided that they should run for president. In January of 2015, people started to officially offer their names up in the running for the two main parties' nominees, the two main parties being the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The online video viewer YouTube has a number of videos to explain the process of whittling these people down to a manageable number, and you should definitely check them out, especially if you are American and are either unsure of the quite comical process, hoop jumping springs to mind, or if you would just like to remind yourself. YouTuber CGP Grey has my favourite one. It shows the facts without expressing a preferred side, and in his own unique style. It's astounding to me the lengths that you guys go to on Earth to separate each other out into as many subgroups as you can, even knowing that essentially every language on the planet has a saying along the lines of working together gets things done better. From my standpoint up here, you guys need more of that. Much more. So anyway, after a number of people come out as potential nominees, you have a lot of press talk about who are the better options and, of course, the worst ones. Some people drop out at more or less every single stage of the polls, and eventually you end up with the two large parties who choose their nominations to put forward. That's when you get the big game of tattletale. Both candidates from the two main parties forget they're adults now, trying to convince citizens that they are the most grown-up person who could take responsibility for their great nation by way of turning into 6-year-olds and arguing in the manner of he said, she said until voting time, November the 8th. Now, I do keep mentioning these main parties. As my tone may have implied, there are other options. The vote you cast could be for one of the terribly named third-party groups, terribly named because they can and do come from a number of parties. The fact that they are treated as one, but not one of the main parties, should give you a clue as to how widespread their collective votes go. This is due to a number of factors, but chief among which is the fact that they just don't get the same amount of funding and therefore airtime as the two larger parties enjoy. So you could end up with someone completely corrupt or an utter buffoon receiving nomination from one or both of the main parties, and yet the third parties could have good sound policy and complete common sense nominees, but next to nobody gets to hear their message. It's also only fair to point out that no matter where you collect your daily news from, that they have a general bias towards one party or the other. Very little in TV and media land is as open or as good at holding to accountability as they would have you believe. This whole process is partly responsible for the lack of first contact. From up here we see and hear everything you guys have said in every language since the Berlin Olympic Games. Every now and then we pick up on some things that excite us and make us think you may be nearing the point where we can safely make contact. For example, in the 1980s you had Cosmos. Brilliant. A guy who wants to treat you all as equals and to take you further away from your adolescence and away from the dangers foretold to you by the Fermi paradox. Sadly, Mr. Sagan wasn't one of your leaders. He was an educator. He attempted to show you a world of unity, and through nothing more than a want to progress and the knowledge of your need to show love, disband hate and ignorance, and help each other. At this very same time, your world had leaders who maintained the so-called Cold War, where everyone was holding world-ending weapons at each other and daring each other to pull the trigger first. This brings us back to the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox isn't wrong. I know what you're thinking. If Fermi isn't wrong, how are you even here, Ivaen? I will explain that in the future. Maybe I will make another video in the next couple of weeks, but I digress. Many of the civilizations have come and fallen undiscovered. Most of them. The thing Mr. Fermi miscalculated in his predictions was how insistent life is. There are thousands of civilizations in the universe, but that number is less than 0.001% of all that have existed. Those that made it through their adolescence first were already smart enough to have the paradox in mind, so they didn't make contact until some criteria were met. I regret to inform you that the way you govern yourselves is a major contributing factor that keeps your belief in the lack of extraterrestrials alive. Not just in the USA, but almost every nation down there needs to change. Without that change, you just can't come together for each other's benefit, and your wars, greed and corruption will remain rife in an entire world that spends its life using up real resources in the hope that you can get your hands on some man-made ones, which as far as I can tell, you are all trying to get from each other, people who need some, while the people with too much keep hoarding theirs. What a neat little circle. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. These are the people to represent you. A whole large nation of people, and you end up with a guy who inherited billions contesting with a lawyer who got fired from one firm because she was too ruthless and unethical. Too ruthless? For a lawyer? These are the people to represent you, America? A country almost exclusively populated with low and middle income families? Okay, don't panic, people. If this was a vote for dictatorship, then it might be time to panic. But your governance is divided into 3 chambers, as you know. A genius stroke by the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. Constitution. Can't do American politics without mentioning the document that started the actual unification of the United States, without which it would essentially be the 50 small countries of America. I'm sorry, Texas just doesn't have the same ring to it. I don't have the time in this video to do the Constitution the justice that it deserves, so I will address that soon. But just to be very clear, there is nothing wrong with the writing, other than the missing branch of office that could and should have been placed in control of the power of money. Your entire world could have changed to be more than 100 years further down the road from its adolescence had that been the case. Just imagine going to sleep on December 31st, 1899, and waking up on January the 1st, the year 2000. You've gone from blowing out a candle to the internet, file sharing, email in your pocket, with wireless communication, and almost every child being able to read. That difference pales in comparison. If anything on earth could be changed by the click of my fingers, then your money would be the thing I'd change, and you would thank me for it minutes later. Anyway, voting. So here you are, gearing up to choose between yet another pair of rich people to run your country for you once again. Try to remember that your vote makes you responsible for their actions, so don't vote for Team Red or Team Blue, or even the best speech. Vote for someone only if they say what you feel, what you would say if you were running from the home you live in right now. If they aren't your ideal candidate, do not vote for them. Vote for one who is, someone who actually seems to care. If you all just keep voting red or blue is all you'll get, which after a while is so comfortably complacent, corruption versus buffoonery becomes the only two sensible options you can see. Don't worry though, once you get past this stage of Earth's adolescence, you won't have to bother with any of this. You'll all just profit through peace, everybody profiting from each other and from us, all of the races that are out here watching and waiting for you. Be the change you want to see. Good luck, America. Be good.